Hello, beautiful friends. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kathleen, and here in this space, I talk about all things bookish, lifestyle, entertainment, music, all that great stuff. And this video is no different, as I'm going to be kind of focusing more on the bookish end of things and sharing my mid-year freakout book tag, which I'm so excited to do. And yeah, so before we jump into the questions, I did want to share kind of like a little summary of my mid-year to kind of share where I'm at right now. And yeah, share some of those stats with you because I thought it was pretty cool. So when it comes to the total number of books that I have read so far this year, it is 68. Now, I did start the year off with a reading goal of hopefully reading 160 books, but I quickly shifted that in the spring and changed it to be 120. Currently, as it stands right now, I am one book ahead of schedule, so I'm doing pretty okay on that. When it comes to total number of pages read so far, I have read 24,280 pages. When it comes to the average rating, I am giving a 4.22 as the average rating. Total number of 5-star reads is 28. I think that that is spectacular in and of itself, because while some people will say if you have a lot of 5-star reads, that means that you're just giving away 5 stars and that you'll give anything 5 stars. I disagree. I feel like that to me means that I know exactly what books I like and that I'm choosing books wisely and that I'm not continuing to read books that don't work for me, or I'm not picking up books and taking a risk on things that I know aren't my vibe. So I just feel like that means that I know kind of who I am as a reader and what I like and what I don't like, which is good. The most read genre is a thriller. I have read mostly thrillers this year. The most read format has been print or physical books, with that coming in at about 79% of what I have been reading has been a physical book. The most read author is Emily Henry. Since I'm still getting back into reading, I'm kind of in this phase where I'm exploring all of these different authors because everything is kind of new to me. And so far this year, the only author that I have read from twice has been Emily Henry. So that's pretty cool. Now, a really quick rundown of the top 10 books of the year so far. Starting with the number 10 book is The Dream Hotel by Layla Leilani. Number 9 is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. Number 8 is Home Seeking by Carissa Chen. Number 7 is Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson. Number 6 is Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Number 5 is The House of Eve by Sadeko Johnson. Number 4 is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. Number 3 is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. Number 2 is Junie by Aaron Crosby Eckstein. And number 1 book that I have read so far this year has been Black and Blues: How a Color Tells the Story of My People by Imani Perry. So that's kind of the brief little summary. Let's dig into the questions for the mid-year book freakout book tag. So the best book you've read so far this year, which we just kind of touched on right now, has been Black and Blues: How a Color Tells the Story of My People by Imani Perry. And also, since it's kind of a tie, it will also, I'm choosing Junie by Aaron Crosby Eckstein as my top books of the year. They were both so amazing. When it comes to Black and Blues by Imani Perry, it was just, for me, the way that she told this story, the way that she explored this concept of exploring how this color was so interwoven with Black American culture and just with the culture of Black people amongst the African diaspora. So I just found that to be so captivating, so interesting, and so enlightening, and I really enjoyed that book. It was exquisite reading experience. And Junie was such an emotional, poignant, reflection and coming of age story. It just captured my heart. Junie captured my heart. Just everyone in this novel, just the themes and all that was conveyed, and the way that she wrote this story, not being delicate and not being scared to really go there when it comes to the brutality, the barbarism, when it comes to slavery in America. She just did that. And the way that she crafted such a strong, poignant, heartfelt, emotional story. I cried reading this book. It was so amazing, so phenomenal. And just I loved it. So those two are by far my two favorite books of the year. The best sequel you've read so far this year. I think this is probably the only sequel, but I will go ahead and say it's the best sequel, and that is Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn. This was magnificent. This series to me is magnificent. Words fail. Words fail, but this had me by the jugular. It was so action packed. The way that she just expanded on the story with the world building, the depth of the character development, just all that was unfolding and all that is taking place, and how this story is growing in scope, and it's just becoming this just epic story. I enjoyed this. This also tugged at my heartstrings, and when I tell you that I cried at the end of this book, it broke me, but I loved every word on these pages, and I love this book. Now, when it comes to new releases that I haven't read yet, there are a few, as I kind of, because of the summer, got caught up in the traveling and socializing and just living my best life, that reading took a backseat for a little bit there. So there are a lot of new releases that kind of were released in June and July that I need to get on the bandwagon and read. So there's about four that I'm really needing to read and that I want to get into. The first being Riley Sager with A Vengeance. I did go to Austin and go to the author event there at Book People, and it was such an amazing time. It was my first time going to an author event. I enjoyed it with my whole heart. And I can't wait to read this book, because just the way that he was talking about it, his inspiration and the process of how this book came to be, it sounds completely fascinating, and I can't wait to read it and get into it. Now we have Nikki Erlich's of Poppy Fields, which I'm very excited to read. I read her debut novel, The Measure, and I was so in love with it. I found the story itself to be so captivating, so poignant, so heartfelt, so emotional, and just so interesting when it comes to the human condition and humanity as a whole. And I could only imagine what her sophomore effort is going to prove and what it's going to kind of dig into, as we're talking about this concept of people going to this facility where they have the option to sleep away kind of like their grief, and to wake up kind of healed, and the side effects and the things that can come of such a treatment as this. I can only imagine what themes and things are going to be featured in this novel, and I'm excited to dig into it. And then we have S.A. Cosby's King of Ashes. This will be my first S.A. Cosby novel, and I am so excited to be able to get into it when I get the opportunity to, because I have just heard phenomenal things about his writing as a whole. I've heard very phenomenal, interesting things about this novel. And from what I've heard and from what I've seen, I do believe that he's going to be one of those writers that I'm going to fall in love with instantaneously, and that I'm going to become obsessed with his writing and obsessed with his work. And I'm just ready for all that to happen. I'm ready to fangirl over this man and his work, and maybe in the future attend an author event and meet this man. So I can't wait to get into this. And then we have Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love so much of her books and so many of her works, and I can't wait to read this novel and see what we're talking about as we're exploring women in space. And I could only imagine how very interesting and how very heartfelt this is going to be, as I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid for me is one of those authors that can write very heartfelt and poignant women's fiction, and I can't wait to see what she does with this story. So those are pretty much a few, or primary new releases that I'm just anxious and eager to get into. Okay, so now we have the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So to my knowledge, there's not really that many novels that are being released the second half of the year that I'm just gooped and gagged over, but there are a few. The first is coming in my birthday month of August, and specifically August the 19th, and that is The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas. I love her work. I read both The Hacienda and The Vampires of El Norte, and she is just phenomenal. Her prose is ridiculous. It's so poetic, lyrical, rich with description. She knows how to create such a captivating atmosphere that just sucks you in to her story. And I cannot wait to see what she does with this next release. I'm so excited. And next we have Eternal Ruin by Tigist Girma, and I'm excited for this second book in the Immortal Dark series. I cannot wait to see what Kidan gets into and Cecilios. I can't wait to catch up and get enraptured into this dark world. It's being released in October, which is a perfect time because I feel like October, we're all in that spooky season vibe and that spooky season mood where we're all reading vampires, witches, all that great stuff. So I cannot wait to get my hands on that and to read that this year. Next, we have Princess of Blood by Sarah Hawley. And this is another installment, or the second installment to the, I think, Shards of Magic series, with the first one being Servant of Earth, which that was like a sleeper hit of 2024 because I wasn't expecting to fall in love with that as much as I did. So I cannot wait to see what happens with our girl in this next installment. I'm so excited. So these are the books that are really on my radar for this last stretch of the year, and I can't wait for it. So when it comes to the biggest disappointment so far this year, that would have to go to Society of Lies by Laura Ling Brown. I was so excited and anxious to read this because I felt like the premise was right up my alley, where we have these secret societies and this girl trying to infiltrate the society, and it has all these dark secrets, and she ends up getting caught up into something, and murder ensues. And I just thought that it was going to be a very interesting, dark, and just, I don't know, really good story, but it really wasn't that for me. A lot of it, in my opinion, relied on the stupidity of the main character. And if you have not been around here, or if you have been around here, you know that I don't like stories where we have the main character that is just willfully just an ostrich with their head in the sand, and they're just ignorant and stupid. To me, that doesn't make for a captivating read. It doesn't seem believable, and I can never really get into it. And that's what happened with Society of Lies. And a lot of that was also precipitated by a lot of miscommunication between the two sisters, and that was also frustrating. So it just really wasn't it for me. I was very disappointed that I didn't like it because I did love the cover and I thought the premise was very intriguing, but alas, it fell flat for me. The biggest surprise, or a book that I didn't expect to love, that is going to go to Say You Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now, I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez I think it was this past year, and I did not have a good time with Yours Truly. I know all the girls love that novel, and I am happy for the ones that do love it, but it is not for me. It was not for me. It had a lot of miscommunication in that romance, and that just isn't my shtick. So I decided to give Abby Jimenez a second chance on this novel and see if I would like it or not. And boy, did it take me as a surprise, because I love it. I love Xavier. I love Samantha together. I love their romance. I love that there wasn't a lot of miscommunication. I love that it also gives it gives light to, and it gives representation. That's the word I'm looking for. It gives representation to long distance relationships and long distance couples, showing the realities of what a long distance relationship is like, and a lot of the sacrifices and the push and pull that exists within that. I also like that we get to see into Xavier's and Samantha's life, and we get some of a contemporary feel to this romance. where we are seeing them go through their own individual problems and their own individual kind of character growth as individuals, and just seeing them come together and how everything plays out in the story in the end. It was superb for me, and I ended up giving this 5 fabulous stars because that is how much I was impressed with this novel. Next up, we have favorite new author, which could be a debut or new to you author. And my vetting process before I call an author my favorite is a little bit extensive. Like, typically, I like to have read at least 5 of their books, and of those 5 books, at least 3 of them have to be 4 stars or higher. So I'm still testing out different authors, so I haven't really had many authors that I could eagerly claim are my favorite authors. But I do have some authors that are really on my watch list that I feel have the potential to be my new favorite authors. And one of those authors is Nnedi Okorafor. I read Death of the Author, and the writing and everything about that story, how epic it was, the complex storytelling, it really caught my attention, and I was in love with it. And I foresee me really enjoying Nnedi Okorafor's past works and potentially her future works. And I did end up purchasing Binti, the complete trilogy, and I can't wait to get into that series and see more of her work and see the science, what she calls, what is it? It's the African futurism or something like that. I can't wait to get into that and read into that because I was blown away by Death of the Author. The other author that I feel is on my author to watch list is Stephen Graham Jones. I read The Buffalo Hunter by him, and what a phenomenal and exceptional experience. I falling in love with indigenous horror was not on my bingo card for the year. I didn't even know that it existed, but now that I do know that it existed, I'm sad because it was an amazing novel. I just love complex storytelling. I love novels that have depth. And I also like the kind of literary and social commentary that was present within this novel and how it centered and featured colonialism as horror in and of itself. Fascinating, well done, well written. I foresee me really enjoying more of Stephen Graham Jones' writing style and his work, and I'm looking forward to reading more from his backlist. And lastly, the other author that I have on my authors to watch list is Frederick Bachman. I read Beartown by him, but his writing style, the way that he can encapsulate emotions and feelings and concepts with his words, and just really create the most profound statements and just put them on page like they're just simple. Like, it's simple words, but they have such profound and just epic meaning. I'm hooked. I'm so hooked. And I can't wait to dig more into his backlist. And I'm also currently right now reading My Friends, which is his newest release in 2025. And I am barely 24% in this book. And I have almost cried, burst into tears multiple times. And I have found so many quotes that I'm just so shook by. I fear it's going to be a 5 stars, but I also believe that this man is a man that I'm going to really end up having as one of my favorite authors. Okay, so when it comes to the newest fictional crush, that award is going to none other than Josh from Lights Out, because listen, he is the perfect book boyfriend in my opinion. Fight me. Don't fight me. Fight with a wall, because he's just top tier for me. He is goofy, funny, so unserious, so interesting. And he's the kind of guy that you can just have so much fun with. You can let down your hair and be yourself around, and you don't feel the least bit anxious or unsure of yourself, because he just makes you feel so welcome and so comfortable. But at the same time, he doesn't play about you, because if anyone comes against you, anyone threatens you, anyone acts like they're going to do something to you, he will burn the world down for you. We need more men like that. You know? And I'm hooked. I am hooked, I am set, I am whatever you want to call it, because he to me is the perfect book boyfriend. I didn't understand what a book boyfriend was until I met Josh, and I so understand. So he would be the fictional character that I have the biggest crush on. Now, my newest favorite character, that belongs to Ebby from Good Dirt. There was just something so inspiring and something so just awe. I was in awe of her character because even though she's flawed and imperfect and she's going through a lot of trauma that she's trying to unpack and she's not necessarily doing all the right things, there was still this thread within her storyline and within her just depth as a character where she prioritized taking care of herself mentally and emotionally. And that was so inspiring and so healing to me in a way. I feel like oftentimes as women, especially as Black women, we feel that we have to be strong and we feel that we have to like push forward and we feel that we have to do it all because nobody else is going to do it. But she taught me that there's also strength in your weakness, and there's beauty in that, and there is strength in actually resting and prioritizing taking care of yourself and doing what needs to be done to allow yourself to properly heal and move forward with your life, to properly grieve traumatic situations and do the work. And it just, she's top tier character for me. I really enjoy her and find her so inspirational and look up to her. I love her. And next up, we have a book that made you cry. Listen, 2025 is a year that like my heart grew 2 sizes too big because what book has not made me cry at this point? I fear I cry over everything now, but that's okay. We're in touch with our emotions, we're in touch with our feelings, and you know, we are a little bit of an empath or whatever it may be, and I'm here for it. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of books on this. So first off, I just mentioned earlier was Junie by Aaron Crosby Eckstein. That book had me in tears at the end. I could not stop crying. I was blubbering like an idiot. It just sent me down this rabbit hole of just thoughts and thinking about all these different things and thinking about like my ancestors, thinking about my heritage, thinking about my family, thinking about it had me on a whole trail and I cried like a child. It was such an emotional experience. The next book would be All the Water in the World by Erin Koffel. That novel, it undid me. The way that it explored grief and how grief is just how grief permeates everything and also how grief exists in everything. Sometimes I feel like we only recognize and see grief when in relation to death and loss, but grief can be the loss of anything. It can be the loss of a way of life. It could be, you know, the loss of an opportunity and just the way that it manifests in your life and the way that it kind of unfolds. That it explored that so exquisitely in that novel, and just it was so very touching. Then we have Homeseeking by Carissa Chen. This novel had me breaking down as this was exploring kind of the Chinese diaspora, and I found this story to be so heartfelt. Star-crossed lovers, just all this history between them, and the way that they ended up continually coming back to each other, and how it just how everything unfolded in this novel. The pain, the trauma, the frustration. It was such a magnificent novel as well, and I did cry multiple times throughout this novel, but it was such a beautiful novel and such a beautiful debut, I do believe. Then we have Blood Marks by Tracy Dion. This also made me cry. This is another story that I feel does such a good job of exploring grief, and it does an excellent job of exploring generational trauma. And for all those reasons, it made me cry like a child. For whatever reason, I feel like with the Legendborn Cycle series, it touches that inner teenager in me and she feels so seen, and it's so cathartic and so healing, and I so emotional of an experience reading that series. But yeah, it tore me up and I bawled like a baby. And of course, Beartown. Beartown was another novel that I just, the way that it explores this very sensitive and delicate subject matter, and the way that that Frederick Bachman created such real, raw, vulnerable characters in such a delicate situation, in literally a powder keg, and just the way that he kind of crafted and built this story, and just the phenomenal characters that you meet and the not so phenomenal characters that you meet, and also the fact that people that are deeply flawed and problematic, that there's layers to them, and that there is room for redemption in even the most questionable of people. It was such an amazing novel, and I cried multiple times, multiple times, because Frederick Bachman is so good at creating these lines, these sentences that just get you and rip you open. And yeah, it was amazing. And next up, we have a book that made you incredibly happy. So I think that's always going to be hard for me because I read a lot of heavy shit. I read a lot of traumatic, deep, dark, heavy, traumatizing stuff. I don't know. I like the raw, real, deep emotions for some reason. But as I've been trying to include a bit more lighter and fluffier things into my reading repertoire, I have started to deviate more into contemporary romance, which I'm so glad for. And I would say that probably my happiest read would be Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. And that I owe to the fact that the character, I believe Alice in that novel, she's so bubbly, she's so optimistic, she has such this positive outlook, such this "you're not going to rain on my parade" attitude, that made it a delight to read about her character, to be in her mind, to experience her life, because she was such an I'm not gonna say she was unbothered, but she just had this very positive, addictive attitude that made you want to be around her. She was a light, and that made, I don't know, it made the book super enjoyable, super happy. Yeah, I think that would be my happiest read. Plus, it had all these summer vibes. Yeah, it was very much it was still a heartfelt read in a lot of ways, but I still feel like it was probably the happiest read that I've read so far this year. Now we have the most beautiful book cover or design you've purchased so far. Listen, 2025 has also been a year of me trying to get my special edition game on and making sure that I built up my library full of beautiful, gorgeous special editions. But asking me to choose a favorite is like asking a mother to tell you which one of her children is her favorite child. It's just not going to happen. So let's talk about all the ones that I have that I just really stand out to me. So first we have these special editions of Blood Marks and Legendborn, where they have these sprayed edges. I think that these are so flippin' gorgeous, and I'm so happy to have them in my collection, as I'm a huge Tracy Dion fan, and yeah, these are beautimous. And then we have Ava Reed, Fable for the End of the World. I think that this is a gorgeous edition of this book. I also have a special edition by Ava Reed. What is it called? Not the Drowning World, but I can't think of what it's called. It's something with like the bookshop or something like that. But I also have a special edition of that I think is gorgeous. But this to me is exquisite. Um, Love it. Love the beautiful detail on the hardcover. Yeah, stunning. And glad to have it in my collection. Then we have the Gilded Ones series by Namina Forna. Now, I think that every cover of this series is phenomenal, and that is specifically because I love to see a young Black woman on the cover of these books. This is something that 14, 15-year-old me would have geeked over because I love fantasy so much then, and I didn't see the representation on books, on covers of books, or even within the stories. So this collection to me, it's so stunning. Every one of these books has this beautiful girl on there, and I love it so much. My heart sings. Next, we have Death of the Author by Nydia Okorafor. I think that this book is stunning as well. We have these gorgeous turquoise sprayed edges, and then we have the book itself. As if you know anything about this story, it is a book within a book, and we get the rusted robots on the cover of this. I thought that that was such clever marketing and so cool, and so glad that I have a copy in my collection. And then we have This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi. I haven't read this yet, but I think that in this series, from what I've seen, every cover of these books is exquisitely gorgeous. And this is the first one in this series, and just look at it. I love the golds. I love the orange. I love the detailing of the helmet with the roses in it. Just beautiful. It's not a special edition, but I just think that this cover is stunning, and these colors just luxurious. We have If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. This is a book that I read a couple of years ago that I really loved, and I thought that this was adorable as well, with all the little features that are unique to the story. I don't know, it puts me in the mind of Valentine's Day with the heartsuckers and all of that. And I just think one of those quotes, one of the most important quotes in the story, just everything about it is adorable. Then you have the end pages, and it just speaks so much to the story. So if you're truly a fan of this novel and of this story, you, I think, would love this special edition and hold it near and dear to your heart. And then I did join a book box called Situs Fiction, where they specialize in promoting and selling books by BIPOC authors, specifically in the fantasy genre. And the first one that I got from this book box is Bones to the Wind by Tatiana Obey. And I think that this is so stunning as well. I mean, just look at it. I love the detailing, these gorgeous sprayed edges, the detailing on the cover of the book as well. As my first special edition from a book box, this thrills me to no end, and I'm so glad to have it in my collection and can't wait to read it. Lastly, we have What Books Do You Need to Read by the End of the Year? And friend, I had this challenge of doing 25 books for 2025. And do you want to know how I'm doing? Awful. Because I think I've only read one book off of that list. And we're already partway through the year. So I need to get on that. All of those books I need to read. I really need to read those 25 books for 2025, because that will make me so happy that I completed a bookish challenge. So I need to get on it. There's a lot of little books on there. I have like The Count of Monte Cristo, Anna Karenina, Wade in the Water, what is it? The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. There's so many little books I have on there that I need to get into. So hopefully I can get myself together so that I can accomplish that. So that is all for my mid-year freakouts. Let me know kind of like what was happening and going on with your reading year. What are your favorite books? What are the books that you need to get into? What are the books that you need to finish for this year? Just share everything and let's talk in the comments below. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe so that we can stay in touch and we can just gag and goop and yap about all of the things. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.